we're back in session. We're moving on to item J10, ordinance of the first read. City Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we have a 2025 ordinance amending Chapter 42, Article I, creating Section 42-6, prohibiting public camping or sleeping on public property.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, just wanted to make a note that the agenda summary for this item says it'd be effective October 1 of 2025, but it would actually go into effect after adoption of second read, which is tentatively scheduled for May. And Ms. Barbara Grossman, Code Enforcement Manager, is here to provide you with any additional background information.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Grossman, do you have a presentation?
No presentation. I was just strictly going to give you some factuals on the ordinance.
Oh, that was our time. Go right ahead.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor, City Council. My name is Barbara Grossman. I'm the Code Enforcement Manager for the City of Palm Coast. On March 20th, 2024, House Bill 365 was enacted by the Florida Legislature and signed into law. The law prohibits the city from authorizing or allowing regular public camping or sleeping on public properties, including but not limited to any public building or its grounds or any public right-of-way under the city's jurisdiction. The proposed ordinance is to bring the city code up to date with state law and provides for the prohibition of enforcement and an appeal process for public camping and sleeping on public property. Regarding the prohibition, as outlined in the ordinance, no person may regularly engage in public camping or sleeping on any public property, including but not limited to public buildings and its grounds in the right-of-way under the jurisdiction of the city. Regarding the enforcement of the code, the city manager, designee, or law enforcement officer may issue a trespass warning to any individual violating the terms of this ordinance. The trespass warning will be valid and enforceable for 2 years in accordance with Section 9.1 of the Code of Ordinances of Palm Coast. And for the appeal process, an appeal is to file with the city clerk in writing within 10 days of the issuance of the warning. The appeal shall be heard by the city special magistrate in accordance with 9.1H of the Code of Ordinances. This decision of the special magistrate regarding the trespass shall be final.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Any discussion from the council? Anyone have any concerns? Our resident attorney, you have anything? Vice Mayor?
Thank you. So the only thing that I know we had further discussed, because we've had quite a few vehicle pedestrian encounters, some more accidents I think I've seen in the news as of late. And so my concern to add into this or to include would be some type of, I don't know if it would be considered loitering or something that keeps people out of the medians as much as possible for safety purposes. I know there was a case in Jacksonville. It was challenged to Judge Corrigan in the Middle District where because of the increase in pedestrian vehicle encounters, there was an ordinance that was passed. It was challenged. Middle District upheld it for safety reasons. So I had originally asked us to look into that. I don't know if it was looked into, whether it would be a separate ordinance from this, but since we're discussing this, I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, Ms. Pontier, we're still looking into that one. Would be my recommendation right now to make that a separate ordinance. This is going off of the Florida statute where this particular deals with any public properties, any right-of-ways that the city owns, and it's particularly going to sleeping or camping of some sort.
Understood. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Miller?
I just had a quick question. Do we have any idea, once this is in effect, what impact on enforcement will be, i.e. kind of what the, how many people do we have in this situation right now? Do we have any idea about that? I don't know if there's any reporting for that.
I don't have a number, and I'd be using the Flagler County Sheriff's Office in order to trespass them. Do I see a couple out there? Yeah, I do. Normally what happens if there's a private property that has encompass of a campsite there, then what the Sheriff's Department does is get a letter from the private property owner, and that private property owner allows the Flagler County Sheriff's Office to trespass them off of private property.
Okay. And then I guess the next question would be, and it's not really a you question, but what kind of like, where do they go, right? What kind of services? Because if you can't be on public property, you can't be on private property. You know, obviously they're being displaced into somewhere else that then is just another issue, right? And so I know we had some issues in the past behind the library, other places. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, and this, again, also may be a separate issue that we can talk about further at council, but just make sure that there's some level of service that can kind of address this and then try to at least keep it from just displacement to another place where it's a further issue.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably a good issue to bring up at the joint city-county meeting, just because it's my understanding that the county has to create a shelter. Is that accurate? That any type of shelter has to be financed? I could be wrong, but I thought that.
Not sure, we'd have to look
Okay.
into that.
Okay, I thought it had to be a county shelter, so, that might be, I think that's just a good subject to bring up at
Yeah,
that time.
and I know we've talked about in the past the lack of mental health services, which are.
Correct.
This is one of the main drivers, as well as, you know, substance abuse and things like that. But we have a distinct lack of beds and ability to service those folks, so that hopefully this doesn't reoccur. I know it's never 100% successful, but I would just advocate that we keep that in mind going forward, that, you know, if we're just displacing somebody, we're not helping them, then it's going to continue to be a problem, and it's just, you know, just moving it down the street, so to speak.
So, Councilmember Miller and Ms. Pontieri, just to address some of your concerns regarding enforcement, in my monthly meeting with the Sheriff's Office, we did cover this item because we knew it was coming before you today. The Sheriff's Office has sent out a legal briefing to all law enforcement back in October whenever the legislation came through and it was effective. So they are aware of our process, what our code says, and then we will work through them with this. But it really gives us the option of issuing a trespass warning and then following our process of what the trespassee has to go through and as far as our process.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other council? Yes.
Mr.
Councilman.
Mayor, yeah, a couple of things. Obviously, I just stepped up here, but the whole problem of this nature concerning people who don't have any place to live is very difficult in Flagler County. Just for historical purposes, about 3 years ago, probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Volusia County tried to come up with a ILA with Flagler County, and we were going to provide about 25% of the yearly operating costs for Volusia to operate their new homeless shelter. And it was sidetracked. There was support for it, quite a bit of support for it, but finally was voted down. When that happened, there's no clear-cut place for us to send. The idea was to have beds available when you have a situation like this. Now, with this law being passed, it's a shame we didn't already have that agreement with Volusia County to use their shelter. So the other question I would have, I think there are some special rules concerning veterans and homelessness, and I'm not sure if any of those would apply here. Obviously, the state passed the ordinance, and I'm not aware of anything in there talking about anything special for veterans, but there are some agreements concerning veterans and their ability to stay on public property. So I don't know if that's been challenged in court, but my guess is it will be at some point. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Guerrero? Okay. No other discussion from the dais. We'll open this up for public comment. Anyone have any public comment concerning this ordinance? Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
So I have been homeless. All you're going to do is hurt those individuals more. You're going to keep them in the system. You're going to trespass them. They're going to violate the trespass. They're going to go to court, and they're just going to pile fees on top of fees. Because one thing y'all are lacking is those people are at the bottom, and they do not care what you people think. They're going to do what they want to do because they are trying to survive. Your rules and regulations have no manner to them. Yes, they're civil people, but they're not gonna, if you trespass them, they're gonna go right down the road to another place. It's just gonna keep going, keep going. The problem is their mindset. If they're not willing to help themselves, it's hard for us to help them. That is the very, very true nature of it. It took me only 3 weeks to get out from being homeless because my mindset was I did not want to be there. And I was in Green Bay, Wisconsin in February. It's very cold. So I can tell you, trespassing these people off of public land isn't really going to do nothing but push them onto other people's property. And then it's just going to be a revolving door for them in and out of the green roof inn, we call it. That's just my take on it. I really think we need a shelter for these people. Let them choose. I mean, I know if they have a pass, they can't even get into a shelter. That was my situation, is where I could not even get into a shelter because of the legal actions I had against me at the time. So there's ramifications for this all the way around. I just don't know how trespassing them off of public property is going to help them in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, I'll bring it back to the dais. Any closing comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think Councilman Sullivan's comments on potentially looking into an interlocal agreement with, Volusia County, Putnam County, St. John's, whoever can help our residents in a situation where they need help. Well, we're just look at options to see what might be in the art of the possible, and I think it'd be great to continue to gain public comment on this as we go forward. But I think let's see what the options are. Let's put a focused effort on it.
All right, thank you, sir.
I was just going to ask, do we have consent from the council at the joint county city meeting to bring this up, the ILA, and try to see if there's
I have no problem with it.
appetite to
Yeah,
bring this back up and maybe get it through?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. The change since 3 or 4 years ago, when we decided not to do the interlocal, is that the state has now told us we can't allow the people to stay on public property. Therefore, there has been a change. It might be worth pursuing that.
Well, and I would keep all options open. So I know that there has been discussion in the past of doing a homeless shelter or some type of, I think, didn't we just reach some type of agreement with SMA to put a location here or something? I can't remember what that was, city manager.
We did an interlocal agreement with Flagler County for the opioid funds.
Okay,
And
okay.
that's dedicated towards SMA.
Okay, so we know we have some issues that need some funding and that need some addressing. So I would keep all options on the table, and let's just try to be open-minded in how we resolve this issue.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else? Nothing? Allison, can you call the vote, please? We do a vote?
Motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to approve?
This is just to remain consistent with the state statute, correct?
Yes.
Got it, okay.
It's consistent with the state statute, and then it also gives the sheriff and the city an enforcement mechanism to enforce the statute.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We got a motion. to
I'll
approve.
second.
Second by Councilman Gambaro. Any further discussion? I should have did the motion before we open it for public comment. Any more public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Allison, if you could call the vote, please.
Mayor Panieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
And Mayor Norris?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We're moving on to item K, resolutions. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. We have a resolution 2025 approving Sable Preserve at Town Center Phases 1 and 2, final plat, application 6054.
Okay, this is quasi judicial. Anyone have any ex parte communications?
No, Mayor.
Nothing.
No. Everyone's acknowledged no to that?
All council said no.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, Mayor and council members. I'm Estelle Lenz. I'm a planner with the city, and I'm here with Dennis Leap, our site development manager. And this project is the final plat for Sable Preserve at Town Center, Phases 1 and 2. The final plat is the last step in the process of platting land, which establishes legally recognized lots for sale and development. The City of Palm Coast has a 3-step process which ensures compliance with zoning regulations and facilitates orderly community growth by defining property boundaries, easements, roads, stormwater facilities, and other essential features. This property is an 84.44 acre site. It's located on the north side of Royal Palms Parkway, adjacent to the intersection with Town Center Boulevard. The zoning of the property is master plan development and MPD, and the future land use map designation is DRI urban core with a little bit of conservation. The green is conservation. The subdivision plating process in Palm Coast is a three-step process. The first step is the subdivision master plan, which requires Planning and Land Development Regulation Board approval for projects that create more than 100 lots. The subdivision master plan ensures that the proposed project will meet the city land development code requirements and any applicable development agreements, such as the Town Center MPD agreement. The subdivision master plan for this project was approved by the Planning Board April 19th of 2023. The second step is the preliminary plat, which requires administrative approval. The preliminary plat is submitted with the construction plans, and this approval allows the developer to obtain a site development permit and commence construction of the infrastructure. The preliminary plat for this project was approved October 10th of 2023, and the site development permit was issued February 5th, 2024. The final step, the third step, is the final plat, which is reviewed by staff, the city attorney, and the second-party surveyor to ensure that the final plat meets the land development code regulations and state statutes requirements for recording. And the final plat requires city council approval, and that's why we're here. So this project is located within tracks 16 and 17 of the Town Center Master Plan Development and the Town Center Development of Regional Impact, the DRI. The original DRI approval was July of 2003, and the MPD was originally approved in December of 2003. Both the DRI and the MPD received the approval of the Second Amendment in February of 2024. This is the plat of the project. It is tracks 16 and 17 of the MPD. When I got the agenda item for this one together, there was a drainage easement that was encumbering lots 108 through 113. They were in the process of having that easement released. It has since been released, and there is a note on the final plat saying as much. We just wanted to put it on here because it was still in the process and was on the plat and in the title work at the time. Regarding off-site traffic improvements, the only requirement was the eastbound left turn lane, was an eastbound left turn lane at the western entrance. The right turn lanes into this project were already constructed by the developer of the DRI with the construction of Royal Palms Parkway. And just some notes on this plat, the lots that they're providing are varying widths with a minimum of 40-foot lots and minimum 4,400 square feet. The density for this project, for phases 1 and 2, this project we're looking at now is 2.7 units per acre. When all 3 phases are built out, phase 3 will come in next. That will bring the density down to 1.6 units per acre. And there are 2 access roads. I don't think I could get the mouse to go over there.
Can you say that again, please? They were approved for how many units per acre? And this is planned for 1.6?
So Sable Preserve, all 3 phases is 333 lots.
Okay.
On 194 point something acres, so it comes to 1.6 for all 3 phases.
As an average? Overall?
Correct.
Okay. Can you hold on? I think this is really important. Those statistics are really important. What it's approved for and then what the actual per unit build is. I know, Vice Mayor, you've asked this question a bunch of times. I just didn't see it on this presentation. I think it's in the next subsequent ones, but I would just ask council's consensus, just going forward, if we can make sure we include that, because I know we're asking that question quite often.
Yeah, I'd like to see DUs per acre, yes.
Roger, okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I didn't include it originally with this one because it's town center, so it's really, they're approved for an overall number of units, and so, but when you actually break it down per acreage, that's what I did for the presentation, but I'll make sure it's included next time.
Okay, can you back up to this slide real quick? Okay.
Is this one?
Right there. Okay, so Royal Palms and Town Center, right? And
Yes.
the entrance is going to be on Royal Palms, right? This is still the main entrance
Correct, both entrances, yes.
to the neighborhood. Okay, I've brought up, and residents have brought up many times, the issue of that intersection and how it's going to be further amplified. It's bad enough as it is, but further amplified going forward with these additional homes going in. So, City Manager, do we have a plan for that?
Yes, thank you, sir. I spoke with Mr. Cody about this item last week. In your approval of the design for Old Kings Road and Town Center, we're working with CPH on a short-term solution. So we sent them the go-ahead to collect some early traffic counts to see if there was anything that we could remediate there as a discussion of a three-way stop or something to that degree before we're able to put something permanent in place to mitigate that concern is number one. And then number two, traffic flow will help once we've commence construction on the Belterre safety improvements. If you recall, City Council, that was a $4.5 million state appropriations that we received, but it included us to receive several right-of-way pieces, and we worked with the right-of-way owner to donate those properties to the City of Palm Coast. So we are working on that. That'll be on your future agenda sometime in June for that DOT agreement, but we are looking at that short and long-term solution.
That's the turn lane project?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Could I just, I'm saying this, that intersection of Town Center Boulevard and Old Kings Road, there's a plan to do something at that intersection. When is that going to happen?
So that's what I just mentioned.
That's the Belterre?
We're looking at a short-term solution, which is adding a three-way stop. We're in design of that entire project right now. City Council recently approved the design. It's like a $5 million design project. But before that's all the way completed, we're looking at a short-term solution of a three-way stop
At Old Kings?
At Royal Palms and Town Center Boulevard.
That one right there, okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I think, obviously.
I do think that's going to be a traffic problem there.
It already is.
Almost no matter what you
There's
do.
no
It's
way.
just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, so for history, the reason we mentioned that the three-way stop, and obviously there'll be a study, and people smarter at this than we are will probably tell us what the best solution is. But what happens is you get all these cars kind of backed up on Royal Palms because Town Center is the through traffic, and they can't take that left turn across. And so you end up with 100 cars there waiting to try to get out, and that traffic light gets backed up as well. That prevents them from taking that left. So trying to find some sort of short-term solution until we can get to the larger solution of the Old Kings project.
City Manager, what's the timeline on the short term that you just spoke about?
They're rolling out now. I mean, within a month, 2 months, we should know some early findings.
Okay, if we can just, let's put a placeholder on a future agenda
Sure.
to make sure we're staying on track with that, please.
Sure thing.
Because there's a lot of development going on in this general vicinity, and we just need to not get behind the ball on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're clearing on the south side too.
I have a question, sorry, while we're on this slide, since Councilman Gambaro jumped in there. The February 2024 amendment to the DRI and MPD, what was that amendment?
I don't know all the details on the amendment since I was looking at the number of units and the densities. It did increase the residential units from 2,500 to 3,575. Perhaps someone else is more familiar with what was approved.
In a total, and you mean for the total of Town Center?
Total of Town Center,
Okay,
yes.
so the amendment was to all of Town Center.
Correct. It was the development of regional impact.
Ray Tyner, Deputy Community Development Director. And you may recall, that was part of the amendment too, that we tried to incentivize the mixed-use buildings, like the one that's under construction, to allow some of those residential units to be utilized for that mixed-use component, like the current construction that we have adjacent to our park.
So where we're putting commercial on the bottom and residential on top?
That's right.
Okay, so the adjustment was not necessarily to this specific plot, it was for the overall DRI?
That's right.
Got it, okay, thank you.
You have anything else?
No, ready for me to move on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, let's see. So the two access points, we just spoke about that onto Royal Palms. The roads within the development will be curb and gutter. There will not be any swales, no PEP tanks. The roads and utilities for the project, including the lift station, will be constructed at the sole cost of the developer. The roads and the stormwater facilities will be maintained by the homeowners association. They will be providing an amenity center for the residents on the northeast portion of this plat. And they're preserving about 26 acres of wetlands for this project in this phase 1 and 2.
I'm sorry, I have a question, I have a couple questions, going back to the traffic, 'cause this is really, something's just not hitting me right. When was the traffic analysis done?
Yeah, good morning, Mayor and City Council members. The traffic study for this particular subdivision,
Yes, sir.
that was about a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at that time, well, let me ask you this. So this slide says that the right turn lanes were provided by developer of the DRI with the construction of Royal Palms Parkway. And then it says only eastbound left turn lane required at west entrance. So are we saying that that there were already turn lanes that were done by this developer?
Yes, well, before it was, when it's a vacant lot, it already has the turn lane, right turn lanes, westbound right turn lanes at both entrances.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the eastbound left turn lane, is that completed or not completed yet?
That it has been completed.
It has been?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so we're not waiting on those are already done.
That's already there. It's open to traffic already.
When do we anticipate this level of service will change
The level of service for Royal Palms,
for Royal Palms?
at build-out, I think that's when it's going to be effective.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if we know we're going to see a level of service at build-out, what are we doing as far as improvements?
Well, there's two aspects of traffic. One, we look at, we call it concurrency or capacity issue. Right now, the approach on Royal Palm, you're looking at about 8,000 daily trips. With an additional development here on the subdivision, it would not hit the threshold of a capacity issue. But there's also operation issue, like you have mentioned, that basically that the stop condition is on Royal Palm, and in Town Center is a free flow. So it's, at time, typically in the morning, you see that cars back up because they want to make a left toward Old Kings Road. So we just finished conducting approach counts in order to make sure that it meets warrants in order for a all-way stop or three-way stop. And one of the concerns that we are afraid of is that it could back up the westbound traffic on Town Center back to Old Kings Road. So we are very careful in measuring this and analyzing this for the temporary improvement condition. But the city manager had mentioned that CPH is currently under contract in order to evaluate and propose the permanent solution. We think it could be, based on my experience, that is a prime intersection for a roundabout. It would help to alleviate all approaches. Because right now you got 8,000 on Royal Palms, you get 6,000 south of that intersection, and you get 10,000 from that to Old Kings Road. So the balance of all the approaches are about the same. And that's why we think that a roundabout would work very well there. But we'll have to wait for the CPH study in order to move forward.
Are we collecting impact fees for this?
I'm sorry?
We're collecting impact fees for traffic for this, right?
Yes, yeah. The
Transportation?
333 units will have to pay transportation impact fees, right?
Okay, and when will those be due?
As they, at permit, building permit.
My concern is that we're going to be, you're supposed to skate to the puck before it gets to where it's going. I have a concern on this one.
So Mayor, City Council, I would strongly advocate for you all to go to the, TPO has some upcoming events coming to our community. One is their Vision Zero, which is making the roads safer. It's scheduled for the community center on this Thursday night from 3 to 5. And then the second one is on April 28th, again at the community center. This one I think is later, it starts at 4. But that's to review the long-range plan for 2050. We're going to need some major help with Old Kings Road and Town Center Boulevard at I-95, the bridge there, the stormwater structure. It's not something that we can do alone or solve alone. And so advocating more with the TPO, not only yourselves, but also the community advocating more assistance there.
Mayor, if I may.
Go right ahead.
Jason DiLorenzo, Chief of Staff. Vice Mayor, state law does not allow us to collect impact fees, transportation impact fees in advance of building permit.
Yeah, no, I understand that we're constrained by our lovely state laws that continue to just help us out so much these days. But my concern is we're going to look at a project later on today that's going to kind of drain the coffers for transportation impact fees. So if we are then going to have to foot the bill for things like a roundabout or whatever other traffic improvements CPH comes up with, I just have some concerns, and I think they're shared by council members up here. So, I don't know I know at this point this is final plat. We have legal requirements that we have to check the box on, and if those are met, which they're met, we have to approve. But the question is, when you drive down Town Center Boulevard right now, there's all kinds of development, and my concern is that we're going to see them come online at very, very close in proximity, and then all of a sudden we're going to be saying, oh, we're not level of service D anymore, and we've got traffic coming out the wazoo, and because the city manager's point, we don't have funding to take care of a lot of the improvements we need in that area, we're going to have a really bad situation on our hands.
Two things related to that. One, the multifamily project that's across the street from Imagine School, they will also be required to pay a building permit, so they will be paying basically shortly, right, for those multiple buildings, and I don't remember how many buildings it is. So, but we'll be collecting the transportation impact fees for those buildings very shortly. We got an email yesterday, I believe, from our transportation impact fee consultant. You'll remember that we're doing a study right now, that we will have a draft at the end of this week, I believe that email said.
That's correct, yes.
And then that we are anticipating bringing that to you in a workshop in May with a plan to vote for it in June before any changes to state law occur July 1st.
Okay, I would just suggest as we get into our strategic, thank you for that, Jason. I would suggest getting into our strategic action plan that we make this top of the list, a priority. Yeah, this needs to be a priority for us as far as ending any funding mechanisms and planning as a part of our CIP as well. Just, we really need to keep eyes on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. DeLorenzo. Continue, please.
Okay. So these are some photographs of the development. On the upper left is one of the entrances. I think we said it was the left entrance, or the west entrance, I'm sorry. Bottom left is a stormwater pond. Upper right is one of the roadways within the development, and a lift station on the bottom right. The infrastructure for this project, well, the infrastructure improvements include the stormwater systems, the roadways, the wastewater lines, the potable water lines, lift stations, et cetera. And again, they're all constructed at the sole cost of the developer. For this project, approximately 97% of the infrastructure has already been completed. The applicant has provided an estimate of the cost to construct the remaining infrastructure. That estimate has been accepted. And prior to the execution of the plat, the applicant will provide a bond in the amount of $209,632, which is 120% of the cost to construct the remaining infrastructure. And again, the roadways and stormwater management facilities are to remain privately owned and maintained by the Property Owners Association. And the recommendation is for council to adopt a resolution approving the final plat for Sable Preserve at Town Center Phases 1 and 2, and authorize the mayor to execute the plat for application number 6054.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Since I'm new, I just was a little confused when I heard there are two entrances, a west entrance and an east entrance. Do they both have left and right turn lanes?
No, only the western entrance has both turn lanes.
Seemed to me that's what I thought you were saying. And the one that's closer to Old Kings is the one that doesn't have left and right turn lanes. So if anything, that entrance will add to the congestion there.
Yeah, because when we evaluate the traffic pattern, predominantly people will come home and using the western entrance instead of the eastern entrance, yeah.
So they would turn left at the first entrance that they encounter,
That's correct,
and
yes.
they would turn right at the first entrance they encounter.
What really should have happened was there was an entrance to and from the interstate into that neighborhood, but that's all in the past.
This to me, I'm just new here. This is a classic case of putting the cart before the horse. But
I have a question.
Yeah.
You know, when we were talking about the property up on, that Livingston brought to us to convert to commercial, and they hit the trigger point of having to make extra changes to the infrastructure there, right? So on 100, can someone remind me what that point is that requires kind of the last person in to pay extra because they've triggered extra traffic, so to speak?
Yeah, and that's why I asked about the level of service, because once you trigger that,
that's the level of
service.
Okay.
So, but to piggyback on that, Councilman Miller, is what would be the trigger?
That's a complex issue. Based on state law, that if capacity on a roadway failed, that means it exceeded the adopted level of service of local government, then statute allow them to do proportionate share. Basically, we will evaluate the mitigation of their prop share. Then they will pay that amount. Then we basically, by statute, we are required to approve or let them moving forward. Just based on traffic alone, we would have to allow them to go forward. So here's an example. Royal Palm failed, for example, and another development impacts Royal Palm that they are currently over capacity. So in order to fix Royal Palm, let's say it would take $20 million, but their prop share is only $2 million. Then we are still required to take in the mitigation amount of $2 million and allow them to move forward, even though we don't have the balance of $18 million in order to improve Royal Palms.
And
So
that's because of state law?
That's a state law, yes.
Okay, so then the question becomes, can you retroactively go back to any of those other developments that have also contributed to that change in the level of service?
Based on also impact fee assessment is only for assessment of future impact. We cannot go back and retroactive and charge people are already there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Is there, I mean, do we want to, or can we ask to have the left turn lane addressed? I don't know if there's an appetite for that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Fong?
You mean after the fact, after we have approved?
Or as a part of this process?
Part of that process is that once we approve them, and let's say in 10 years from now, we deem that there's another left turn lane on the east entrance, then it will become a burden on the city in order to make that improvement.
Is there anything precluding us from requiring a left turn lane on the east entrance now? Legally?
Legally, I'm not aware that, part of the approval for the final plat, you can still condition them then. But at this stage, I think it might be too late, but I'll defer to our council. Yeah.
Do you have anything, Mr. Duffy, on that?
I'm going to let Mr. Tyner
Oh.
talk first.
Mayor, City Council, with following our transportation planner, when they submit a traffic study, we follow our guidelines and our standards. And based on the analysis of our transportation planner from a technical analysis that's submitted by their traffic engineer, it only necessitated a turn lane at that one moment based on the traffic study that was done. I would think the discussion from a staff perspective, they met our guidelines and our standards. So maybe the applicant is also here, and maybe they may have some further comments or discussions, technical comments regarding that turn lane. But we're just basing it on our technical analysis on when it's required.
And you said their traffic engineer. Who reviews that? Is that Fong that reviews that? Okay.
Yes, I review traffic evaluation, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Can you go to the last slide, please? No questions, that's it, all right. So, can we get a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, I move the approval of this first read of the ordinance.
It's a final plat.
Or final plat.
Second?
Second.
Got a second? We'll open this up for public comment. Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any further discussion? No discussion. Allison, call the vote, please.
Panieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
And Mayor Norris.
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to move on to K resolutions, item 12. City Attorney?
Sorry, make sure my mic works here. Yes, K-12, we have a 2025 resolution approving Reserve East Final Plat Application 5764.
This is a quasi judicial matter also. Any ex parte communication by anybody on the council?
No.
Negative.
No, Mr. Mayor.
No at all. No from all of us. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Estelle Lenz again, here with Fong and Dennis Leap. And this is the final plat for the Reserve East. Again, the final plat is the last step in the platting process of subdividing land to create lots for sale and development. This project is a 141.47 acre site. It's located on the east side of Roberts Road, approximately a half-mile south of Colbert Lane, and approximately 3/4 miles north of State Road 100. Oops, wrong way. The zoning of the project is SFR1, single-family residential, and there's some preservation zoning there as well. The future land use map designation is residential and some conservation. Excuse me. The subdivision master plan for this project was approved by the planning board in June of 2022. The preliminary plat was approved December of 2022, and the site development permit was issued October of 2023. The final plat, of course, is, as we mentioned before, is reviewed by staff, the city attorney, and the second-party surveyor to ensure that the final plat meets the land development code regulations as well as state statute requirements for recording. And that is the last stage, requires council approval. So this property was annexed into the city August of 2021. The land use and zoning designations were adopted January of 2022. The single-family residential 1 zoning entitles the owner to develop the property at a density of 7 units per acre, and this property is being developed at a density of 1.53 units per acre. Again, it's a 141-acre site. They're proposing 217 single-family residential lots. They are preserving approximately 45 acres of wetlands. The SFR1 zoning, minimum requirements are 50-foot lots, 50-foot wide, with a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet. They're providing 50-foot, 60-foot, and 70-foot wide lots. The roads will all be curb and gutter, no PEP tanks. There are 2 entrances into this project off of Roberts Road. The roads and utilities, including the lift station, will be constructed at the sole cost of the developer, with the roads and the stormwater facilities being maintained by their homeowners association. They are providing an amenity center at the southern entrance of the property. And again, they're preserving about 45 acres of wetlands. There's some photos of the project. We got the entrance on the upper left, one of the entrances on the upper left, the roadway on the right, a stormwater pond on the bottom left, and the lift station being constructed on the bottom right. So the infrastructure for this project has already been approximately 99% completed. The applicant has provided an estimate of the cost to construct the remaining infrastructure, which has been accepted. So prior to the execution of the plat, they will provide a bond in the amount of $151,952.36. That's 120% of the cost to construct the remaining infrastructure. And again, the stormwater facilities and roadways will remain privately owned and maintained by the Property Owners Association. And the recommendation is that council adopt the resolution approving the final plat for the Reserve East and authorize the mayor to execute the plat for application number 5764.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion on this matter? Can we get a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, move approval of this final plat.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second by the vice mayor. Any further discussion from the dais? No? Any public comment concerning this plat? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any discussion? Ms. Allison, call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Panieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
And Mayor Norris.
No.
The motion passes 4-1.
We'll move on to K resolutions, item 13. City Attorney?
We have another resolution 2025 approving a construction contract with Halifax Paving Incorporated, a CEI contract with JAI Consultants, a post-design service work order with England, Thims, and Miller Engineers, and a 10% project contingency for the Whiteview Parkway.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Carl Cody, Director of Stormwater Engineering. Today I'm going to give you an overview and summary of the Whiteview Parkway Safety Improvement Project. So this slide provides an outline of the key topics we'll cover in the presentation today. We'll go over the project limits, define the boundaries and scope of the project area, the objectives, highlighting the main goals and purpose of the project, as well as the proposed improvements that will detail the planned enhancement and the changes, as well as a project outlining the schedule and key milestones of the project. So this is a reconstruction and resurfacing project along Whiteview Parkway for its entire length, from US 1 to roughly Pritchard Drive, all the way in the east end. It's roughly 3.5 miles long, and there's 2 distinct sections with different roadway characteristics. The first segment from US 1 to White Mill is about 0.85 miles. Its right-of-way is 120 feet, and it's a 4-lane divided roadway with 11-foot travel lanes, and there's no paths or sidewalks. Then from White Mill to Pritchard, it's about 2.65 miles. It's still 120-foot right-of-way, but it's only a 2-lane roadway with 11-foot lanes, and there's a 12-foot shared use path on the south side of the roadway. So the project aims to enhance safety, traffic flow, and accessibility along the Whiteview corridor by widening the roadway for turn lane installations and modifying median access. The project also includes sidewalk and shared use path extensions and a flashing beacon installation which will enhance pedestrian and vehicle safety. Other enhancements include milling and resurfacing of the roadway, landscaping, and corridor aesthetics, as well as drainage and signalization upgrades. So turn lanes are being added to the following intersections: Wood Ash in Whiteview, Rolling Sands in Whiteview, the Palm Coast Bible Church in Whiteview, White Mill Drive in Whiteview, Whippoorwill in Whiteview, Ravenwood, Princess Rose, and Pine Tree. So we'll do a little blow up here that kind of shows the before and after, and we'll start on the east end of the project. So at this end what we see is on the left is the existing condition at Pine Tree Drive, and then on the right is the proposed modification. We'll be adding a right turn lane from Whiteview onto Pine Tree Drive. The next intersection improvement is at Princess Rose Drive. So again, the left is the existing and the right is the proposed. They'll be adding a left turn lane onto Princess Rose on Whiteview. Then we skip over Belterre because the Belterre and Whiteview is going to be handled as part of the Belterre improvement project. So then we go to the west side of Belterre, and the first intersection is Ravenwood, and this is, a very I guess, traffic impactful area. There's been a death here. There's been lots of accidents at Ravenwood, being only a 2-lane road segment. So there'll be multiple turn lanes added here. There's going to be a westbound left turn lane onto Ravenwood. There'll be a right lane on Whiteview added to turn onto Ravenwood. And then on Ravenwood, there'll be a separate right turn lane and a left turn lane onto Whiteview. Then we go to Whippoorwill. So again here, there'll be a left and right turn lane here, left for the westbound traffic and a right for eastbound traffic, or the opposite. Then we go to White Mill. So we'll be adding a dedicated left turn lane from Whiteview onto White Mill, and then coming off of White Mill, we'll be adding an additional, or a left turn lane as well. So it'll be a dedicated left and right coming off of White Mill onto Whiteview. We discussed as well with the developer, just added a left turn lane on White Mill into their development, and there's only a little bit left of pavement to add, so we're looking at expanding the scope slightly to add a left and right turn lane on the north end of White Mill onto Pine Lakes. Then we come down to where we're adding a new median cut. So this will be at the Palm Coast Bible Church. It also allows residents to do U-turns in and out of those complexes because we're closing some medians further to the west. So this is on the left here. This is one of the areas that really, driven the project from the very beginning. This was one of those high safety roads that was on the TPO list. There's 3 median cuts and 3 offsetting roads. So lots of in and out traffic. The road on the north that heads off of Whiteview is Woodbury. This is a very complaint-driven road from citizens for cut-through traffic to go over to Pine Lakes. So this is one of the roads we tried the striping on to narrow the roadway down. It really didn't have much impact. But what this proposal is going to do is close 2 of those median openings. So there's only going to be 1 median opening. And that is going to allow us to have a left turn lane onto Rolling Sands and then a right turn lane onto Rolling Sands. But it's also going to allow Rolling Sands, when they pull out, to have a kind of like a merge lane to head westbound towards US 1. With this modification, it's also going to, disallow people going from Rolling Sands over to Woodbury or vice versa. That will be a restricted movement that they won't be able to do anymore. And this is also going to have the continuation of the multi-use path from White Mill on the south side of the roadway heading to US 1. Then the last improvements at Wood Ash. So this will have a left lane turn lane, and then it'll have an area for a left turn lane in the westbound direction for people to do a U-turn. So if you do go from Woodbury and you wanted to head to Whiteview, you could come here and do a U-turn here, or you could go to the signal at US 1 and do a U-turn there. What doesn't show here is you can see the path on the south side goes to US 1. We're also having it go northbound to the north side of Whiteview with a signalized crossing with the traffic signal, and then there'll be a sidewalk on the north side to the first road to that residential neighborhood, so they have access to the the city path network. This has been a project that's been in the making for a long time. You can see the overall timeline for the project. In 2017, we had some conceptual plans brought to City Council, some public meetings, went to BAC, then we did some design work, we wrapped up the design, we continued to pursue, FDOT funding. We did receive some funding, we had to update the plans to current standards, and that has been completed, and we're able to move forward to construction. Went out to construction, and we received bids, and we're here to actually ready to move forward into the construction phase. The timing of the project is 9 months to substantial with an additional 30 days to final, so just under a year-long project. The base bid was just under $6 million, and then we had some additional alternates that DOT does not fund certain things, so we had to have those priced separately, and brought the total cost of the project up to about $6.5 million. We have the engineer record on board during the post-design period for $85,000, and then we have CEI, which is Construction Engineering Inspection Firm with GII Consultants, and they have a fee of $570,000, and then we have a project contingency. This project has a DOT grant tied to it. I want to say it's just under $1.6 million. We received that from the TPO, and that was almost their entire year allocation for this type of project. So basically, for this type of project, there's certain pots of money they can use, and they get less than $2 million a year, and we got almost all of it for our project here.
Hey, Carl, can I jump in here? So at the beginning of this agenda item, first of all, thanks for the presentation and for laying this out. In the agenda item, it says, reported in the River to the Sea TPO's 2017 crash analysis, the segment within the corridor between Wood Aspen Lane, Rolling Sands was ranked as one of the top 10 for crash severity. Okay, the project, and so it goes on to why the TPO got involved in 2017. And then I just want to confirm the dollar amounts, 1.579264, so just under 1.6 million for that. Okay, so I think it's a great news story. I don't know where our next TPO meeting is, but this is why it's so important that we remain actively engaged in advocating. I think State Road 100, it's a great topic. I think they have it for like after 2030. I'd love to bring it forward. Can you go back to that last slide? So can you give us some more specificity on the alternate 1, 2, and 3?
There's certain components of the project that DOT will not fund. One of them is higher strength concrete. On our sidewalks, we use a little higher strength concrete. I think they fund 2,500 PSI concrete. We go with 4,000 typically. We have vehicles driving on the sidewalks. We're trying to minimize cracking. So they won't pay for the upgraded concrete, so that cost is to upgrade the concrete for the side of the pathway.
Are those a stamps kind of?
No, it's just a different strength concrete, higher strength concrete.
Okay.
That's all that is. I do not recall alternate
I think
2.
one is fiber optic at the traffic signal, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is it? Okay.
Okay, and I think the last one on landscape and irrigation, I think today we had a presentation on, the ton of water that we spend on irrigation, and I think it's great that we can use the reclaimed water from our wastewater plant to help alleviate that. So.
Yeah, this one has a lot of oak trees in the middle. They're laurel oaks. We had to take some down because of health reasons. A lot of they were planted not in the center of the median, close to the edge, causing damage to the asphalt. So this is basically correcting some of that work to try not have the impact on the roadway, replacing those unhealthy trees with new healthy landscapes in the median that's there now.
Okay. Wait, when's the next TPO meeting? Do we know?
I have to check my calendar. The only thing I have on there right now is the pedestrian safety thing that's here, but I can go through and find my calendar.
I think there's an important one on Monday night.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Carl. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
One question.
Let's go right ahead.
We are going to have the U-turn for the people so they don't go across the road where you're improving the intersection. How far is that U-turn from the turnoff from Route 1? That's the only thing, it's hard to tell from just looking at the picture.
Yeah, there's 2 U-turns. The one close to US 1 is fairly close. I want to say, if you 120-foot right away, it's probably 450 feet, 600 feet maybe.
Just worry about the people speeding turning right off one, and then they're immediately going to face those people doing the U-turn. You just need a little room there, that's all. That's all. So you're thinking it's 450 feet?
It's probably more than that. It's somewhere around 600 or so if I, I'm just scaling it graphically here by my eyes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I just have a few questions as well on the timeline. So obviously, this has been taking quite a while. When did we receive funding for the project?
It has been quite some time. I don't remember when we signed the LAP agreement. It was probably last fiscal year, would be my guess. We did a lot of updates to design. It's actually federal funding that's tied to this, so there's special requirements that DOT has, and then they update those specifications every 6 months. So we got into a time period when they changed reviewers where we had to update it to the new standards that were issued in at the last go-around that they had in their updates. But we just finally, we couldn't proceed until we had DOT concurrence to bid it. So we've had the plans done for a long time. We just finally got them to sign off on the project and allow us to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
I
questions?
just had a quick question about the rolling sands, that interchange that we're changing to create the turn lanes and merge lanes. What's the thought process for Woodbury and the design for that? I know White Mill, Woodbury are kind of the cut-throughs that people use to access, from Pine Lakes to the W section and Whiteview. So I just want to make sure, I assume that we probably had a lot of interactions of people crossing and potential accidents there, and that we're trying to cut that down. I also just don't want to cause more problems that somebody attempting to do that is going to go down, do a U-turn, then come back. So just
we've
asking
done a
about the-
couple analysis, because White Mill isn't that far from Woodbury. If you go on Pine Lakes, it's fairly close. So the time involved with, if you went down Woodbury, went west, did a U-turn and came back, it'd probably be quicker for you to go to White Mill.
Yeah, trust me, I, as a former resident of Wood Arbor Lane, you miss that first turn, you just go to the next one and cut through. Otherwise, you're going all the way down. But yeah, I just wanted to double check what the thought process on that. For the TPO question, it's I think I just said the 23rd next Wednesday.
It's the fourth Wednesday of every month with the exception of July and December. All the meetings are properly noticed and open to the public, and the TPO board meetings are held in the airline room at the Daytona Beach International Airport, and they begin at 9.
So that's good information for the public as well. Being present and advocating is definitely appreciated and wanted.
Any further discussion? Can we get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Got
Second.
a second. We'll open it up to public comment. Anyone have any public comment concerning this? Seeing no one come forward, what's that lady's name?
Miss Pat Barilli.
That's it. She should be here for this one, right?
I spoke to her at the State of the City, and I told her if she had any follow-up questions after this presentation that she could get with me, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Because that's gonna, once that apartment unit goes in out there, that's gonna be a lot more traffic added. Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Allison, can you call the vote, please?
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
And Mayor Norris.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent items. Anyone have any concerns with the consent items?
I have two questions for numbers 15 and 16. 15 was the resolution approving the master services agreement with Tri-County Bobcat Services. It looks like this is coming from our general fund. I just wanted to know why.
It's in code enforcement, so whenever there's a claim on a private property, then, and we have to remediate, then we use these services instead of city personnel. That way we have an accurate expense that we can bill to the homeowner responsible.
Right, so this is one of those that goes on the tax bill if it's not paid?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other? Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, did you have another one?
Just on the, yes, on 16, resolution approving piggybacking the Sourcewell contract with Kohler Power for electrical energy power generation equipment as needed. Whew, that's a mouthful. Have we looked into any resiliency grants for items like this? Generators? I mean, I would think resiliency or hurricane or anything of that nature. Do these exist?
Yes, although the pot is getting very thin right now at the federal level for these types of programs. And the problem with waiting for FEMA HMGP grants is you have to have a named storm in order to qualify for funding, and then you can allocate funding for the project. But this is mission critical to wastewater treatment plant 1, so it's why it's on your advance of your agenda right now.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add on to this one specifically, and this would also be used to replace an existing generator. To go get a grant for a replacement generator is very, very difficult. To get new generators is much easier when we go after grants.
Okay, thank you. I had nothing else on the consent. Thank you.
Okay, go right ahead.
On consent item 17, just a comment. I know you just approved last week the fact that you're keeping the fire station. I am worried about the design for that parking for our center there. And the reason is that people are going to have to cross the street. I think it's Clubhouse Road there, it goes across there. And I just hope that in the design, they come up with some kind of walkways. In other words, just putting as many spaces as you can in the place creates some problems with people getting, there's going to be a variety of people, children, old people, that kind of thing. And I just hope the design, and maybe a little flashing light intersection, that kind of thing going across there, just as this thing proceeds now. I think we should be real careful about that. And I'd be willing to give up a couple spaces to make it a little safer for pedestrians who are going to use it. It's a problem now already because people park over there.
All right, anything else for the consent?
Just a question about the Bobcat services. So we're outlaying for that contract, right? But the intent is that as used, it will be reimbursed by the property owners that are necessitating the work?
Correct.
Okay, that's all.
All right, thank you. All in favor of approving the consent item, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we good?
Let's do that one more time. So we need a motion first,
Oh,
and then we can do a vote.
Motion
Mr. Mayor, move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a second? I'll open up for public comment on any consent items. No public comment, bring it back to the dais. All in favor of approving the consent items, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. We're good.
We didn't need a, voice vote, did we? Okay. All right, we'll move on to item N, our final public participation. Anyone for final public participation? Oh, here he comes. You sat here all day for that. Come on.
I enjoy watching you guys in action, and I hope that, Mark Webb, Palm Coast, and I hope that the citizens paid attention to today's events and selection and the participation. Good or bad, it was amazing. But what I wanted to, and was waiting for, and I struggled to speak during the plat reviews, I'm in the middle of the Citizens Academy, and I highly recommend any and every citizen consider going through it, looking behind the curtain, observing the staff actions and the things that are presented to you guys is just eye-opening. And in talking with Mr. Tyner last night, I was posing the question, why aren't we requesting and partnering with our developers who want to come in to Palm Coast to help with the future pain or discomfort of actions? And when I saw the White View project, $6 million, and I wondered, well, there's a huge multi-unit going right in on Whiteview. At the beginning of this approval, with the partnership of developers, why didn't our building group with Mr. Tyner sit down with the developer and go, look, this is going to be an impact to this. We'd like your partnership to help with that funding. And he shared with me multiple successes we've done with partners with Cimarron and others. And then we were talking about down here at this mess that's going to be culvert, and our engineer said, well, you know, the best thing would have been a circle. So in hindsight, for future development that come to the city, we need to have a list or a wish list of projects that we can partner with those developers and say, you know, we want you to come in, we want to partner, we see value, but we need you to help us with road development, sewer development, some of our bigger projects in a partnership. I believe that that is an expectation, a responsibility of you guys sitting on there to look at the value across the board. And I think those would be successes that the citizens would love and applaud and appreciate. For example, having successes in things where we're saving money, allowing developers. And I think it would give developers a pause and rethinking how they want to come in and work with us. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Anything reference what Mr. Webb just mentioned?
Yeah, I was just going to thank you for your comments. I'd be careful mentioning the word traffic circle. You might get yourself into trouble around here.
It's a learning curve.
I just want to thank Mr. Webb, and also maybe it was mentioned last night in Citizens Academy, but one really proud moment that we've worked with developers on is the Coulter project and the Citation Road extension that we were able to work with them. They build the road, add some sidewalks, water, sewer, et cetera, down there, but it's saving us millions of dollars in future years by eliminating a future fire station for emergency response. And they also made some stormwater improvements, so that's a really good win, and I'm pretty sure we won an award for that as well. So there is some good, smart managed growth and when we work together with developers.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll bring it back. Matters not on the agenda of the city council. Anyone have anything in closing?
I have a couple things. We already talked about the European Village. I was going to bring that up, so I was glad to see them here. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here as well. The next thing is I wanted to just, with regards to the TPO, Mayor, I'm sorry, do we have one or two representatives on TPO right now?
I know I have been going, or I went to one, and I do it virtually. The last one I was on, I voted for, it's like $2 million as far as transportation going to the county.
Okay.
That was the last one that I was at.
Okay, just in general, I wanted to know if there's anything that is currently being advocated by us as a group, if we need to make some type of decision in order to get some type of projects in front of TPO for consideration or anything of that nature. I don't know what that process looks like, but I wasn't sure. We've never really talked about it, but I think it's become pretty vital at this point. So just, I don't know if we need to have that discussion, if maybe it needs to be workshopped. I don't know what the suggestion might be.
Yeah, the next one they're having, I'm planning on going to. The last one was just voting on those items for transportation. That's the only thing that's come up that I voted on. I think there's a couple other items, but that was Flagler County, $2 million for public transportation. I was like, yeah, let's vote for that. So, but I plan on attending it. We only have one person assigned to that, right, City Manager?
Right, but Mayor, if you recall, a couple months ago, you asked for me to set up a meeting with the director, Colleen, and ourselves. I did have that meeting. I just want to give City Council an update. It was a great meeting with Colleen. They're actually working on an ILA right now between FDOT and then all the cities, and it's supposed to be completed by the end of April. And what that ILA will do is it will reconfigure who is on the board as far as Flagler County, and Flagler County will get 2 spots to the TPO, and then we have the option of having a primary member and an alternate member. So if you were ever able not to make the meeting, or for transition periods or continuity purposes, she recommended having an alternate member to the board. And then they will have what's called a small city alliance. So right now, the smaller cities share one vote, but now this will give the 4 smaller cities in Volusia County 1 vote, and then the 4 smaller cities in Flagler County 1 vote, and that would be Flagler Beach, Bunnell, Beverly Beach, and Marineland. And as I mentioned previously, it being really important to attend those community workshops, and we are going to work on collaborating with their communications and their community outreach person so that we can share the importance to our constituents. One thing that was, a key item on my list was advocating for State Road 100.
Right.
And where it is in the long-range plan. So definitely a key to get that on the long-range plan is it being cost feasible, and our liaison, so Mayor, you would need to just reaffirm to the board the importance of that project, of why it needs to be in the long-range plan. So it was a great meeting, and really think that we can highlight some of those things to our community and the importance, because you're right. I even asked her, Vice Mayor, if State Road 100 is not even in the long-range plan until out 2035 and 40, how do we ever get ahead of planning for it? And there wasn't a great solution, but more advocacy and more proponent of why these things need to happen, needs to happen at that meeting.
Yeah, there's 2 from the county. It's me and Commissioner Dance.
No, the county would get their own 2 seats.
No, I'm saying that are at the TPO, that are the 2 representatives. It's Dance. So I'm just saying that's who we have representing us from the county. Anything else? Anybody have anything?
Sorry, the only other thing that
Oh,
I
I'm
had
sorry.
was, that's okay. So we had previously talked about a utility resolution for development, and the fact that impact fees are due on somewhat of a staggered schedule. And we had talked about, that payment plan, whether or not it should be repealed due to the fact that we have these very pressing utility issues. I would say I would move to repeal that payment plan for the residential developments.
Is this the resolution where they pay like 6 months after the fact?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
I think that those, based on the absolute need that we've already shown in this community for utility infrastructure, that we repeal that and make those impact fees due not via that payment plan, but in the normal course that we do the other impact fees. And for utility specifically, because I know we just talked about transportation, it's at CO. Would it be at CO for utilities?
No, it's whenever they do their utility development agreement.
Okay, so I would move that they be due then and not via the payment plan.
So we can get you a draft resolution and get it on your future agenda at an upcoming meeting.
Okay, that's my motion.
Sounds good to me.
So I don't know if we just need consensus and then we vote on the resolution at that time? Okay.
Consensus for that?
See the details, but sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Work it up.
To the impact fees, I had asked this before, but my understanding, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but, so they're not required to pay until later, but like 98% of those impact fees are generally paid at permitting, for the individual,
Okay.
so,
Well, that's good.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
then we'll just make it
No,
mandatory.
no, I got you. No, I'm,
Yeah.
Go right ahead, Jason.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, that's correct. Nearly everyone pays at building permit issuance. Some folks do not, but it's very rare.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Anything else? You got anything else, Vice Mayor?
That's it.
Councilman Gambaro, you had something?
I do. I just have a quick update. Jason, could you come back up here, please? Just during the break, Jason shared with me an update on Congressman Fine's visit for next week.
I have new information.
Okay. All right, we're still working on it.
Correct.
I have a piece of paper.
But the intent is to notice it with enough time so all of us can attend if we want to. Our friends in the media can be there, and for him to get a full brief on, hey, this is the city of Palm Coast, this is who we are from a, governmental perspective. Go out to the wastewater treatment plant, walk him around, him and his staff, and then bring him back in about, a few hours or so. So more to follow, but I thought we had an answer.
Yeah, we just are still negotiating a time.
Okay.
And the city manager interviews are getting in the way, so we're.
Oh, no, nothing's
So
gonna
we're
get in the
sorting
way
that
of
out.
that.
Okay.
All right, that's all I had, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Is he going to keep his office here?
So I think he's looking for new office space.
He's indicated a willingness to, so
Okay,
I don't want
Yeah,
to speak for
here
him,
in Palm
but,
Coast,
yeah.
he is.
okay. I didn't know, because his conversations before was about not having one. You got anything, Commissioner? I mean,
Just thank you.
Council, I said Commissioner. Councilman Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank everyone again for the process, going through the application process, and we wish everyone well, and I enjoyed being up here, and you all being very kind to me today while I was sitting here, trying to keep up with things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have anything, Councilman Miller?
Back to me. I don't think so.
Okay, city manager? Go ahead, I'm sorry, attorney, go ahead.
I do not have anything.
A couple things, as part of your packet, the reporting of emergency and sole source purchases for March of 2025, if anybody had any questions.
You ever figured out as far as funding that app or whatever it was, as far as, you said you were waiting for everyone to come in with their budgets?
Yes, sir, we're still looking into that. It's for a different application for our agenda management software.
Think you're going to be able to do it without?
I'm not
cost,
sure,
money?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't met with all the departments, but the budget year-to-date presentation is on your agenda for next week.
Okay. Is that it, city manager?
No,
I had
any
a quick-
questions on the emergency sole source?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. For the last one, it's 14,000 for the quarterly annual maintenance. I'm wondering if that's quarterly or annual, because I feel like if it's quarterly, why aren't we just entering into a contract with somebody, which seems to me we could probably get it a little bit cheaper if we're not paying on a one-off basis?
I can probably answer you on that question, Pete Russell, Deputy Director. This is an annual
It is annual, okay.
contract with this company called Hawk, and they specialize in, we have a lot of analyzers, we have a lot of bench laboratory analyzers, and they come in and they provide calibration services on a quarterly basis, and if they find any discrepancies or if it's not working correctly, they will replace it. We've had a lot of instruments that are the pretty expensive type of instruments that were just automatically, without question, replaced by this company. Hawk is like the leaders in this in the field of water and wastewater as far as analyzers. And the other thing that I will mention, that even the reagents, if we buy reagents from another company, they void out the warranty. It kind of sounds like they got the market cornered, but we've saved a lot of money by having them pay for replacement.
Okay, thank you.
We've been doing this for quite a while with this company.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Was that anything else, city manager?
Yes, just confirming, I mentioned the TPO events that are coming up. Also coming up is the joint city-county workshop on animal control, humane society, sheltering. That's scheduled for April 29th. And then your city manager applicants are coming in on April 24th. And then I'd like to schedule a special meeting for city council to give direction at 6 p.m. on the 29th, if that works for you all. So it'll be after the joint city workshop, and you've had the interviews on the 24th, that you would come back together in a public meeting and give direction on that process.
Have any problems with that?
The joint cities workshop, that's going to be everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, not everybody. It's just City of Palm Coast and County Commission.
But everybody from both commissions?
Yes.
Yes.
So that sounds good. Okay, I'm seeing some head nods. And then just to clear up some misinformation that was out there, I sent City Council an email when we received correspondence back from Doge, but they were very specific in their request of what they were wanting an answer for. They did not ask for any audit information or request us to do an audit. They were specific of failure to pay short-term loans, failure to make debt service payments, failure to timely uncontested claims from creditors, failure for transfer taxes, Social Security, and an unreserved or total fund balance deficit in the general fund. And so we sent back correspondence that we did not meet any of those parameters. So just wanted to clear up that misinformation that was out there on social media. But just also as a reminder, City Council, if you want to give staff direction on any of these things, just working through consensus at council to provide us with direction helps us move out on the mission and objectives. So just wanted to make sure that was out there. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, ma'am. I wanted to follow up on the sign as far as over there on Club Row, the VFW wanting to put in that teletype sign. I spoke to Chip over at VFW, and he said he talked to Jackie, and she said nothing's changed. So I think our consensus was to help them as far as putting in a variance or whatever we have to do to get that approved. So if we get someone that's proactive to work with VFW to see what we can do.
So, Mayor, I think the issue is within your sign code, it restricts that activity. I've wanted one at the Southern Recreation Center, but it's not prohibited in our sign code. So there isn't a variance process for the sign code.
So can we change it?
That would be at the consensus
Sign
of
code?
council.
Yeah, that would have to be consensus. Sorry.
But
That would be consensus from council to give direction to staff to look at that and then possibly
rewrite it
rewriting it.
To specifically address that problem along that road. We have the schools doing them. The schools have them,
Well, they're exempt. They do not have to comply with our sign code.
I know
So
that because they're the school board.
I can tell you, I don't want to see all those digitized signs all over our city.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
an issue for
I'm saying
me.
just for the clubs.
I don't think you can be restrictive. You can't say this
First
one, but
Amendment.
not that one.
Yeah, that's a First Amendment issue.
I just think we need to try to do something with them. But if we can't, we can't. So we don't have consensus on that? Let it be?
I mean, if there's not a path outside of changing the ordinance, then that's tough.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree that potentially having a one-off would be great for specific organizations, but if that's a legal issue, then I don't want to
Again,
create that as well.
The First Amendment thing.
And then I don't want staff to,
You got to be content neutral.
Equal protection.
and I don't want staff to have to spend time creating a presentation that ends up going nowhere anyways.
Yeah. All right. How you doing, Kathy? Anybody else have anything? Anything? All right. Everybody have a, what?
Oh, wait,
Motion.
do we have Easter coming up?
That's this coming Sunday. Yes.
Yeah, so happy
Friday.
Easter,
Happy
happy
Easter.
Good Friday to everybody. I heard the event at Town Center was great. We were out of town, so we couldn't go, but heard that Easter Bunny was there and all kinds of good stuff for the kids. So I just wish everybody a safe and happy Easter.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're adjourned.